suicide 19 times more after having their body parts removed.
Governor, parents have legitimate concerns about their kids being able to medically transition at such a young age. What do you have to say to those parents? What do you have to say?
Without further ado, I welcome to the show Max Bonillo. He is a Generation Z independent journalist who is changing California politics through these viral videos. Thank you so much for joining us, Max. Tell us about confronting Gavin Newsom, why you thought that was an important thing for you to do.
Yeah, so in all reality, California has a trans industrial complex, right? So last year there was a bill written by one of the most evil legislators in the whole nation, I would say. Scott Wiener.
I knew you were going to say Wiener. I almost interrupted you to say, was it Scott Wiener? I know exactly. When you say the most evil legislator in America, Scott Wiener pops to mind.
Yeah, well, the name says it all, doesn't it? I mean, he wrote a bill. He wrote a bill last year that became law that made California a sanctuary state. California already allows 13-year-olds to get their bodies mutilated, to get their pen 15s cut off, so to speak.
Yep.
And basically what the trans sanctuary state did is it endangered a lot of kids in red states and in other blue states that perhaps don't have as much of a stringent policy on this trans stuff. So basically these kids can be brought in by an adult that may not be their parent, and they can be mutilated or they can be given hormones, which is particularly scary. So they labeled it a trans sanctuary state. It's definitely a Trojan horse, and I can run down the other bills for you that would tie into this bill that makes it look so bad.
Yeah, we've covered all of Scott Wiener's actions as they come up, but yeah, give us the breakdown of it, because obviously he's the senator that was behind the bill that allowed you to spread HIV knowingly to your partner without telling them. Why that needed to be legalized, God only knows, but they did it anyway and acted like it was a massive victory. So yeah, give us the breakdown. What has Scott Wiener brought? What blessings has he bestowed on the once great state of California?
Right, and then just as you mentioned, one of the previous bills he passed was he basically allowed an adult and a minor within 10 years of age to have, a consensual affair, and the adult wouldn't get put on the sex offender registry. But what we have now is this plethora of bills that he's supporting to make children wards of the state, to possibly stuff them in foster care away from their parents, and to deem parents abusive if they actually want to parent their child and not, quote unquote, affirm, as they say, right? So this is the Trojan horse. There's this bill that they're passing that would allow 12-year-olds to consent to state-funded residential facilities. And the Trojan horse right here is mental health. And these kids don't even have to prove that their parents are abusive in order to do this. One day your parent could take away your PlayStation, or they could say, you know what, I'm not putting a dress on you today, bud. And basically this kid could go to a weaponized counselor in a school and be taken away from their own parents. On top of that, we have the AB 957, which is a bill that went national, which basically allows the government to get involved in custodial cases between two parents. And basically what the state is going to say is, hey, we want judges to side with the quote unquote affirming parents and not the non-affirming parents, because the non-affirming parents will be deemed child abusers in our court system. And I know of a case where there's a father and there is a mother, and the mother put a dress on her son, and she said he was non-binary. And the father is fighting to get his kids back. He is fighting for custody. And there are more people like this out there in California. And then the final bill essentially is we have SB 407, which does not allow foster parent candidates to foster children if they don't want to go with the California affirming model. They would have to sign a waiver that they want to affirm.
Right. So you're basically saying that Christian people can't foster children if they believe in traditional Christian values, which seems like you have a pretty good case for religious discrimination there. And just as you pointed out, we played the video when they passed the bill where they actually say this removes judicial discretion. So I guess the way it was written before, the judge would have discretion to say whether the parent's behavior meets the criteria for abuse and whether that would qualify for, government intervention. Now they say, no, the judge doesn't have discretion. If they do not affirm the child's gender, then there's no you don't, but they still treat the kid well. Nope. If they don't do it, there's no judicial discretion. They must take the kid away. And so, when it comes to California as a whole, I'm always sort of torn about it because I feel a little bit like a hypocrite being like, you got to get out of there. You got to get out of California. It's lost. because I also respect people that are staying and trying to change it. But now you have state senators in California state senators saying, get the hell out of the state. They're coming for your children. Leave before it's too late. I mean, is it still worth fighting for, Max?
Yeah, I'm fighting for California. Honestly, my attitude is I'm fighting till I'm dead. You know, Scott Wilk is a senator. He happens to be from Santa Clarita, and he's just like, you know what? California has become too oppressive towards parents, and that is the truth. The legislative and the executive branch here in California, Gavin Newsom and his cronies in the legislature, they want to bully the judicial branch. As you said, they don't even want to give judges their own discretion. So what they want to do is they want to have kids brought from out of state and even kids in state. They want to take them into the courts. Then they want to put them in foster care. They want to take them away from loving parents who will not affirm and give them to non-loving parents who will affirm according to their model. And it's just cruel because we're talking about mutilation for kids who are under 18. And these are kids who don't even know what they want. These are kids that believe that Santa Claus comes and brings them presents on every 25th of December. And yet we think that they're capable of making good life decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll disagree with you. Santa is real, and we make sure to reaffirm that every time it's mentioned. But your point is very well taken, and yeah, it's horrifying. And of course, all of this occurs after the kid has been brainwashed by the state in the first place. So just to add on to the process that takes place, it's like your kid is sent to school. They're told it's cool to be trans. They're shown videos where trans people are so much cooler than everybody else. They're taken in this vulnerable part in their life where their body's changing and they're not sure about themselves, and they're taken in this time of vulnerability and fed all of this information. They bring that information home. Then the parents disagree with it. The kid gets taken away. I mean, this is all created at the outset from these trans activists and their government enablers, right? Right.
So, their hormones are running wild, and exploiters want to take advantage of it, and possibly paid activists, as you mentioned, people who are advocating for trans kids because they won't be recognized by a certain group of people. But I don't really believe that a kid is trans. I believe that a lot of these kids, they are coerced and they are brainwashed, as you mentioned, because they take advantage of the vulnerability of these children and the fact that they haven't had an experience in their fully grown, mature adult body. Chances are 4 out of 5 times these kids will get over their gender dysphoria. They'll get over, having a crisis in their teenage lives where they don't know what gender they are. And eventually they will know what gender they are. Imagine if we had mutilated all the tomboys, it would look pretty bad. And this is California's model for what health looks like. And it's just absolutely absurd.
Yeah, absurd is a very nice word for it. I mean, it really is just demonic to me. I mean, there's not words to describe what this is because, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's taking vulnerable kids who are going through, this time in their life that they're not sure, who they are or where they fit in society, and may, show some attention-seeking aspects of their personality, and that is, fulfilled and fostered and like a flame. It's kindled by these people who then use it as an excuse to take kids away from their parents. This isn't speculation. This isn't the 90s and some person going, if you let the gays get married, then they'll be marrying dogs next. Like, this is actually happening. The laws are being written. It's being put into place. The people sounding the warning bells aren't just my guest, Max Bonilla, but actual state senators telling California parents, get out while you still can. This is a whole brave new world that we're entering into, and I'm sort of blown away by your knowledge of it. Can't wait to talk to you more on the other side. It's Max Bonilla at outragedteen_ on Twitter. Outragedteen_ on Twitter. And we'll come back with the incredible video that I know is already aired on Alex Jones's show. That's you confronting Gavin Newsom. We'll come back with that video and ask you about that. And just ask you what the future holds for Max Bonilla. Very young guy, but off to a great start. I see big things in the future for Max. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. After this, let's watch this video of our guest, Max Bonilla, confronting Gavin Newsom.
Our children.
How you doing, Leslie?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you, Governor Newsom?
Do you know what a detransitioner is? Do you know Chloe Cole, at the age of 15, she got her breast removed and now regrets it because of gender affirmative care? How about the Lodi woman? At 13, she got her breast removed. Gender affirmative care. No one stopped her. She was mentally unwell.
Yeah, I mean, I just had
You can't get a tattoo until you're 18. You can't vape until you're 18. You can't go in a tanning salon. But young girls and young boys can get their body parts removed. Talk to me. Our duty. I'm an attorney. I send you letters. are the people I represent. Kids who haven't been affirmed don't commit suicide.
Just a second, you're not that excited.
Kids commit suicide 19 times more after having their body parts removed.
Governor, parents have legitimate concerns about their kids being able to medically transition at such a young age. What do you have to say to those parents? What do you have to say?
And of course, he just completely ignores them and actually laughs at their concerns as they're talking about the brutal genital mutilation that children have been tricked into going through. Incredible video by my guest, Max Bonilla, at outragedteen_ on Twitter. Great stuff, Max. Is this the first sort of confrontation video that you've been a part of?
Major one, I would say, you know, and my thoughts, honestly, it's like Gavin Newsom literally walked away as an 18-year-old was asking a final question. You know, Joe Biden will take questions at a press conference, and sometimes he'll walk away, and you'll have a reporter ask him a question as he's walking away, and he'll head back to the podium. Maybe he'll say something a little idiotic, but Gavin Newsom couldn't even do that. You know, he's too much of a coward to do that. And we have Erin Friday, who is literally with me. She's an attorney. She's a Democrat. And despite having those political views, she still views this gender ideology stuff as this harsh reality that needs to be confronted.
Well, how can this even be a political division thing, right? I mean, who doesn't want to protect kids? This is a medical issue. It's an issue of like family care. But I mean, that's insane to me that just because you're Democrat, you're like, well, I grew up in a union household, or, you know, well, I like their policy on this or whatever. It's like, okay, now you've just co-signed genital mutilation of autistic children. So like, that's also a part of your platform now. More Democrats should be on our side, shouldn't they, Max? I mean, I don't think this should be a Republican-Democrat issue. It's protecting children.
Right. Well, the problem is evil prevails when good men don't stand up. And the reason why this is a big cultural issue is because, you know, back in the slave days, you know, they used to buck break those slaves, the masters, and they used to do some crazy, you know, they used to penetrate those slaves to do that. Now they don't have to penetrate men to buck break them. They can just give them crappy food and crappy water. And they can maybe show them some things on TV that are pretty sensational. And they can change the culture, you know, through their influencers, you know, in Hollywood and things like that. So we've got a bunch of factors, you know, in our culture that have made it so that men have been so desensitized to this agenda that they're unwilling to stand up to it. And because they're like the bedrock of the nuclear family, and this is what they're after. This is what they're seeking to destroy. It starts in California. You know, I say California is 5 years ahead of the rest of the nation. So, you know, if you're looking at California, this is going to be your state, most likely in 5 years, if we don't fight.
Yeah, I mean, other states are certainly following along. And it is, I mean, the more I cover this sort of stuff, it's just like, how did this even come about? How did we even get this far down the road with people like Scott Wiener? You know, like the law we talked about earlier, like, how does this even happen? Because there is no good argument for like not putting sexual perverts on this sex offender registry or allowing people to spread HIV. Like, there is no argument in that. So maybe that answers your question as to why Gavin Newsom wouldn't stop to answer your question. There is no answer to the questions that you're asking. They rely on the silence and complicity of the people beneath them, because when they're ever challenged, they have no answer. This is all absurd. I mean, how much do you think that is a contributing factor to the idea that politicians won't even discuss this, won't entertain these ideas? They just call them hate and move on.
No, I think that video shows perfectly that is the reality. I mean, I was even in a committee hearing where Scott Wiener was like demonizing every parent in the room as part of some right-wing outrage machine, as a bunch of, you know, far right-wingers, MAGA Republicans, very hateful people, most likely Marjorie Taylor Greene ideologues, which the majority of them were not. These are just moderates politically who are against having their children taken away from them just because they're not willing to affirm or conform to the California model.
Completely insane, utterly and completely insane. I'm very impressed at your understanding of the situation. I hope there's a lot of men who are much older than you out there who felt a little sting of their pride, as you say, evil thrives when good men do nothing, because there's a lot of good men out there doing nothing, which is not what they can say about you. What's in the future for Max Bonilla? I mean, are you going to join politics, or are you going to try to confront more politicians? What's next for you in the future, near term, long term?
Yeah, well, I'm going to keep fighting, and I'm going to say this. I hope they're scared crapping their pants about, who am I going to embarrass next? Who's going to be on the national stage next for taking a stupid pill, for passing something stupid, because the whole nation is watching. The whole nation is watching every single one of them because they know that as California goes, so goes the nation. And I'm going to make sure that California goes in a different direction.
Well, we need more people like you doing it. Again, I sort of constantly vacillate between like, get out of California now, escape while you can, and then seeing people like yourself and being like, keep it up, keep up the good fight. I just don't know, but I would love to see that most beautiful of American states, really, in my opinion. I mean, it's called the Golden State for a reason, and it's such a shame to see it taken over and subverted and destroyed by these leftist politicians, and we need more people like yourself standing up against it. Final word, Max, what's been your takeaway on all of the attention that you've gotten? As we've pointed out, your video is retweeted by libs of TikTok. I know Alex played it on his show. This has got to be pretty encouraging that you're having such a positive effect.
Yeah, it's, overwhelming. Now I can see that the nation's watching, and the saying rings true, right? It's better for the government to be scared of us than for us to be scared of them, because that's when tyranny is not going to dominate. That's when the people are going to dominate. And we as the people have to take our power back and be assertive and understand the influence that we can have on our elected officials. And because we allow the donor class and, I would say the third house, which is just full of lobbyists, to take over all of our politicians, this is why all the bad things are happening, because Big Pharma is really behind this whole agenda if you look at it real closely.
That's a whole nother aspect that I'd love to get into with you some other time. Max Bonilla is my guest. He's a man in the arena, even at his very young age, at Outraged Teen on Twitter. Oh, I'm sorry, at Outraged Teen _ on Twitter. Outraged Teen _ on Twitter. Incredible stuff. Max Bonilla, thank you so much for coming on and sharing that with us. Keep up the great work.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
Absolutely my pleasure. And, Matt Baker hit me up and was just like, dude, I just saw this video. This kid's amazing. You got to get him on. You got to get him on the show. And I was like, book him tomorrow. I'm glad we did. Thank you so much, Max Bonilla. We'll be back on the other side. Your phone calls and more stories still to come on American Journal. Stay with us.